Good evening. Oh, that's nice. Good evening. I would like to welcome everyone to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Human Relations Commission of the City of Palo Alto. Tonight is Thursday, June 9th. And this time I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask staff to do roll call, please.
Chair Smith,
Present.
Vice Chair Eberly, Commissioner Kraus,
Commissioner Kraus, you do need to unmute
Hi,
yourself.
I
Thank
did.
you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
There's one more, Commissioner Savage. Oh, absent. 3 present for the record.
Thank you so much. We do have quorum with 3 present. At this time, we would like to open for public comment. Public comment is strictly related to items that are not on the agenda. We will give the public 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Chair, we have 1 speaker and the clerk will help me by doing the behind the scenes work. The first speaker is Aram James. Aram, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
So I'm reading from a Daily Post piece dated Wednesday, May 25th, 2022, titled Shikata, Chief Finalist to be Secret by Braden Cartwright. Palo Alto City Manager Ed Shikata says he won't let the public know who the finalists are for police chief because recruitment is going to be challenging. The confidential hiring process goes against the advice from the Human Relations Commission, an advisory board that Shikata had weighed in on the recruitment, on the recruitment in March after Chief Bob Johnson announced his retirement. The Human Relations Commission asked Shikata to have a forum with the top candidates. If the public doesn't get a chance to give feedback and ask questions, quote, it would instantly put in parentheses the new chief behind the 8 ball, Chair Coloma Smith said. But in an email yesterday, Shikata said he got different advice from Terry Black, a contractor handling the recruitment. Okay, so I had said during the listening sessions, and I attended all of them, that it was simply a sham, that the city manager never intended to have a democratic process work out. And Shikata doesn't expect much pushback. I've been pushing back, but I would hope that you would do your duty as human relations commissioners, because I think it was one of your best nights when we had the listening session, and all of you spoke out very eloquently in support of transparency in the hiring process. Instead, Shikata said, nah, they don't need to be listened to. I'm going to just go to some outside recruiter, ignoring the will of the Human Relations Commission and other members of the community. Democracy starts right here in Palo Alto. Mr. Shikata has acted consistently in the absence of transparency, has acted in an anti-democratic manner, has really made a mockery of the promises post the George Floyd execution by the police a little more than 2 years ago, that we would see more transparency, that we would open up the process to the public to honor the Black Lives Matter movement, but many other people, but beyond just the Black Lives Matter movement. Shikata has dishonored that big time, big time. But absent pushback, like the pillars of the community that have been selected for the HRC, we're going to get the same thing. We're going, and maybe even one of you, I'm betting, if not 2, are going to be members of the so-called Blue Ribbon Committee that's going to meet behind closed doors to interview candidates. I would hope you would say no to that if you are currently on the list of the so-called quote-unquote blue ribbon citizens asked to do the dirty work for Shikata. I say it's dirty work because it's an anathema to a democracy to do a police hiring in this fashion. Officers that are in departments that apply for this job are proud to have their leaders sign letters of recommendation. So it's absolute nonsense that we don't have the support of the departments. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. James.
Okay, do we have any other public comments?
No, we do not, Chair.
All right. Do we have any agenda additions and changes or deletions? We do not. Thank you. I would like a motion to approve the minutes from May 24th, 2022. We have a motion from Dr. Michelle Kraus.
Can I ask that all motions are stated orally? Not the motion, but that she moves orally, so it's on the record.
Yes, please. You're muted.
I move that the minutes be accepted.
Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second it, please.
So since there's only three of us, if I vote, then that means the motion passed, right?
Correct.
Okay, the minutes have passed. Thank you.
I think technically you still have to do the vote.
Okay, let's do the vote.
Sorry.
Chair Smith, yes. Commissioner Kraus,
Yes.
Vice Chair Everly,
Yes.
thank you much. All right. At the beginning of every meeting, we adopt a resolution to authorize the use of teleconferencing for Human Relations Commission meeting during the COVID-19 state of emergency. It will last for 30 days. I will make the motion that we continue the resolution to authorize use of teleconferencing. Do I have a second?
Yes.
We have Commissioner Kraus seconding. We'll start at the top of the alphabet. Vice Chair Everly,
Aye.
Commissioner Kraus,
Aye.
Chair Smith, aye, we have approved. We're on item number 2, which is report back on council review of HRC work plan by Vice Chair Everly.
Thank you. Last week, I had the opportunity to present our work plan in front of the city council. I believe, Minka's looking at me, it was last week, correct? I think the work plan was well received, and I did ask council members for feedback on the work plan. 3 council members spoke. Councilmember Stone provided positive feedback about our listening session regarding the hiring of the new police chief, and the city manager Ed Shikata also spoke up and stated that he factored in valuable and meaningful. Commissioner Stone also spoke about the rental protections, and he is of the mind that we should also include perspective and look at what other cities are doing. And I did mention to him that we are going to have, at the end of our report, rental protections that the city does not have at this moment, but that we believe would be beneficial. He also mentioned the climate change, which was, according to him, a challenging but worthy goal. I did tell council members that we are down 1 commissioner, and since Commissioner Regier was spearheading the climate change when it first came to the work plan, that we were going to have to discuss what we were going to do about climate change. I will say that it seemed that City Council was very appreciative of climate change being in the work plan, and that I think they would like us to work on it. Commissioner McCormick also mentioned the climate change and making sure that the changes that the Climate Action Ad Hoc Committee is working on work for low-income persons in Palo Alto. And then she also talked about inclusion and belonging, that she appreciated the fact that we were talking to the FBI and talking about how to recognize hate speech and hate crimes, but that she would like us to focus on education and training as well. And one of the things that she mentioned was microaggression, that a lot of people say hateful things, not even knowing that what they're saying is hateful. So I did tell her that we are going to focus on education and training as well. And I believe that that is something that we have spoken about in our other meetings. And then finally, Mayor Burt mentioned that he would like us in the inclusion and belonging piece to look at East Palo Alto and look at both cities, Palo Alto and East Palo Alto, as one community, 2 cities and 2 counties, but that they work together. He also talked about climate change, and the way his take on it was more of what's coming up, which is sea level rise, flooding, severe weather, the fire, smoke. And he would like us to look at, look at adoption of AC, but air conditioning. But instead of that, he would like the city to move towards heat pump and water heater conversion. He would like us to look at climate impact. And as far as electrification goes, how to get them on multifamily homes and subsidies for low income families. He also talked about key dates of celebration, including Juneteenth. That's it. Please let me know if you have any questions.
I heard that you did a very distinguished job. And so we're
Thank you.
grateful for our vice chair. Do we have any questions? And do we have any public comments?
I don't see any raised hands, Chair.
Thank you. We'd like to move to our next item then. At this time, we're going to receive the referral. We received a referral from the City Council on recognizing key dates to advance race and equity. I'm grateful that staff is here. They've done a full report, and I'm glad. I think it'll be very informative.
Thank
Staff?
you, Chair. So I just want to go over some of the highlights of the report that I provided for the commission. As you know, this started with a colleague's memo from the mayor and the vice mayor to recognize key dates to advance equity and inclusion. And they recommended that local recognition of and celebration of dates of significant, if historical significant, would be an important way to be able to do so. So in their memo, they quoted the city's equity mission. And the memo also stated that to help meet these goals, the city should pursue opportunities to recognize and celebrate our diversity and civil rights leaders and those that oppose hate crimes. So as a next step, the city should formally recognize and celebrate significant multicultural dates and months to promote equity, honor diversity, and oppose racism. So as you see in the report, the dates that they proposed were Juneteenth, Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta Day, October 11th as Indigenous Peoples Day, and May as Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So that is what was proposed. The council had a really robust conversation on this. The mayor stated that recognition of these events and individuals gives us the opportunity to have ongoing education and celebration and respect for the contributions of these diverse groups that have built our democracy and have challenged us and continue to challenge us to live up to those beliefs. So in the further council discussion, there were some additional items that were brought before the council. One was one of the council members asked that the council possibly consider Holocaust Remembrance Day and Armenian Remembrance Day as additional dates to add to the list that was previously proposed by the council. There was also another council member who wanted the city council to consider recognizing the second Monday in October, which is currently Columbus Day, as Italian Immigrant Day. So that was another issue that came before the council during the discussion. So they had this discussion and they decided for some of these outstanding items that they didn't make a decision on to call upon the HRC. And they felt like the HRC could be helpful because you have previously engaged in the community deeply in the areas of inclusion and equity. And he felt like you could bring a valuable perspective to this conversation. So then there was the council motion, and as you see in my report, they did go forward with Juneteenth, Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta, Indigenous Peoples' Day, and May as AAPI Native Hawaiian Heritage Month. They authorized staff to bring forth proclamations for these events, and you will see on next Monday's council agenda, there is a proclamation for Juneteenth. But then they asked to refer to the HRC, the dates that they did not come to a decision on. So that was Holocaust Remembrance Day and Armenian Remembrance Day, and the issue regarding October 11th. They also asked the HRC to look in how to best recognize these days. So as you see further in my report, I wanted to give you some context of what days were already celebrated by the city as days off. So there are the federal holidays that city employees receive a day off. There are also events that the city either sponsors, co-sponsors, does events for to varying degrees. Some of them city staff are quite involved in, and some are not. World Music Day is actually came out of the Human Relations Commission. Commissioner Claude Ezrin started that. I should have looked how many years ago. I'm going to venture 10 years ago. And that is still something that he works to organize. So, and there's also other events or other recognitions that come before the council that council does a proclamation for. I list them here, and you may have been at council at some of those nights. So Suicide Prevention Month, Affordable Housing Month. But at this point, there's actually no established policy for adding dates or events for local recognition. The ones in the past, as I said, are just things that council has requested, things that staff has brought, staff has just done on their own, or staff has brought to the council. So now the HRC must decide how to best respond to the council referral. So, and in doing so, I would be remiss if I, because I think when you get into these conversations, it actually gets a little exciting. It's like, wow, you know, Juneteenth, what could we do? And all events, as a former events manager for recreation, I love special events. But, you know, special events take time.
Money.
They take money. There is currently no special events person in the recreation department. I'm looking at my colleague Javad over there, who is in recreation. So I ask you, as you enter into these conversations, to keep money, time, and the in mind.
Okay.
So the goal for tonight is to identify main areas of question, concerns, areas of follow-up for the HRC to pursue or ask staff to follow up on. So we're going to be like the school board tonight. We're only going to discuss something tonight. And then at the second meeting, you all would be making decisions. So the HRC can choose to go through my questions and the process that I listed in the staff report, and I'll go over them again in a minute. In its response, it can provide a very specific response to council. You could just actually go through their referral and say, yes, no, do this. You could do that. Or if you choose, you could do a deeper dive in to the issue and provide them with more recommendations to consider. So at this point, the question before you is how to best recognize and celebrate these dates. The ones that I mentioned earlier: Juneteenth, Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta, Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Month, and Indigenous Peoples' Day. So that's the basic question. If you want to do a deeper dive, you can consider if there should be named categories for dates to be acknowledged by the city, in addition to the state and federal holidays. You can consider if there should be a baseline level of recognition for each of these dates that are in a category. So if a date is, if something is like a commemorative holiday, all commemorative holidays, we will do this. So as events come in the future, staff and council has something to work from. You can consider how education or celebratory components could be included in the recognition and how the community could be engaged. For the second item, to evaluate recognition of Holocaust Remembrance Day, which is April 28th, and Armenian Remembrance Day, and I wrote that down, that is April 24th, and evaluate if October 11th should be redesignated as Italian Heritage Day or possibly something else. So if you wanted to do a deeper dive there, you could think about if the HRC recommend a policy on recognition of holidays or days or months of historical significance. So that ends the chair to lead a time of questions and discussion.
Do we have any public comments?
I do not see any hands raised, Chair.
Thank you. All right. I think I'll kick the ball down the road. I think there's two parts to this request, and thank you, staff, for providing such a thorough report. I think there are some specific questions, which are the two, which I think getting those out of the way are critical. I think the second piece, which staff has so clearly and eloquently put together with their questions, is going to be the more difficult piece, but I think the piece that will have a longer impact because it will allow us to create a framework of equity and allow us to create a framework of approaching how we value things that represent people. My personal take is I believe that Holocaust and Armenian Remembrance Day are significant for local recognition. I believe remembering those that were lost to these atrocities become critical because it reminds us of the danger we slip into through hate. As that October 11th / Columbus Day, Italian Heritage Day, I find the actual use of Italian Heritage Day as almost derisive to our Native American brothers and sisters. The push to go with removing Columbus Day and acknowledging the pain and issues that happened during colonialization and what happened in the lives that were lost and honoring those lives, I think you lose that opportunity by then adding another holiday to it. The original use of Columbus Day was to acknowledge the colonization of the US and who was the first one there. And as we grew as a society and culture, we decided to acknowledge Native Americans. And I believe so then attaching Italian Heritage Day to it defeats that point. I'd like to open it up for commissioners to have response on the first section, then we can hop into the second.
So Commissioner Kraus did state that she had a computer crash.
She's on.
Yeah, she's on, but she missed my presentation. Pardon me, Mia?
Vice Chair, do you have anything to add?
I'm sorry.
Do you want to do your comments?
I can go first.
Mhm.
Okay, so I agree with the chair. I also believe that Holocaust Remembrance Day and Armenian Remembrance Day are important to recognize and remember. I also agree that we should just get rid of Columbus Day. And federally, we've done it, and statewide, we've done it. So I'm not sure why the city hasn't done it. And declare October 11th Native American Day. I also believe, however, that we do need to come up with a framework because at some point it's a slippery slope on which days should be remembered or celebrated or commemorated. And I believe that we it might be helpful to the city council to come up with a framework on how the citizens of the community can bring something up as a day of remembrance to city council. One idea that I just had was maybe there could be a petition. There could be a way that people in the city can have a petition signed. And then if they get enough signatures, they can add it to the city council agenda where there's a discussion and a vote. Because I believe that the dates of remembrance and commemoration within the city of Palo Alto should be dates that reflect the city. You know, what is important to the people who work here and who live here. That's what I think. All right. So we're basically just talking about D.
Yeah, we're
Right.
just dealing with those 2 points.
Yes.
And then I think Minka gave us some great questions to run through. And I think if we each answer the questions, it will help frame the discussion and get us ready to be more prepared for our August discussion. Is that correct, staff?
At this point, yes, it would be on the August agenda.
Thank you. Commissioner Krause.
Unfortunately, I had a computer crash during the entire staff presentation. What I'd like to do is review it in preparation for our August meeting.
Okay.
But Commissioner Eberly, I'm not sure that a petition quite encompasses the city spirit, because unfortunately, we have days of remembrance for atrocities that have occurred. And I'm not sure that quite jives with having a petition. It's sort of a misnomer in my mind. But forgive me if I've overlooked anything. I do understand why we are moving in the direction of removing Columbus Day. And I support the utilization of the days of remembrance.
I would say that Commissioner Krause, my presentation pretty well just went over the staff report. So there really wasn't anything that I went over that
Good.
wasn't in the staff report. Just wanted to let you
Good.
know.
Forgive me, because I was busily trying to get the computer to go back up.
Okay, so I think we have some points of, since we are only at discussion, so we can't vote. I can't yet, but I think we're in agreement on the two pieces that were specific questions from the city. At this moment, if we took a vote, it sounds like we would have 3 people for the Holocaust and Armenian remembrance, and just leaving that October 11th date to commemorate our Native American brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first part. And I think that answers the very specific question of the text, but staff has done a really good job of outlining some questions for us. I want to read the questions so that we can get some clarity on it. I'll give you some of my thoughts on the questions, and then I will ask each commissioner to provide some thoughts. And I want to use this as the basis for our discussion when we return in August. Should the HRC recommend a policy on the recognition of holidays and days of months of historical significance? I think Vice Chair Everly said it best. I think you have to set a standard or you go on a slippery slope. We want to be equitable and fair. We also want to have a framework that everybody can point to say that it is equitable and fair. Should there be named categories for dates to be acknowledged by the city? I think there should be, but I just don't know what the categories should be. Should there be a baseline level of recognition for each day based on their category? I'd have to do more research. How could educational and celebratory components be included in the recognition? I don't know. How could the community be engaged in the celebration of these events? Commissioners, if you have any initial thoughts on any of these questions, I'd love to hear it right now. I do believe I want to go back and I will personally do some research in cities around us and also cities around the country to see how they handle this holiday situation, because I think there may be models for us. But do we have any comments from the commissioner?
I have two comments about, well, let me start.
Mhm.
First of all, as far as Juneteenth is concerned,
Mhm.
East Palo Alto is having a Juneteenth food and music festival.
Mhm.
And I don't see why in the future we cannot, as Mayor Burt actually mentioned, work with them. And one thing that I think it's extremely important to do during the celebration is recognize the history of housing discrimination in Palo Alto and the formation of East Palo Alto.
Mhm.
I think that we need to look at ourselves and recognize the history that's there. The other way that I believe we could celebrate another holiday, Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta Day, is having a day of service
That's good.
for that holiday. And that's a state holiday. I know that state employees get the day off. I know county, no?
I was just saying city employees do not.
Yeah, okay, yes. County employees in San Mateo get the day off. Maybe city employees should get the day off here. I'm just gonna put it out there.
We would encourage it.
And it would be a great, it would be a great day of service.
Mm.
I think that that would be fitting for that holiday.
Mhm.
So as far as, so those are the two ideas that I have
Mhm.
right now, but I would love to do some more research as well. And as far as I think the lowest level of recognition, and I don't mean that it's not important, but a proclamation
Mhm.
should be the first step.
Mhm.
And then depending on the budget that the city has, we can go up from there.
Yeah, I really like, first of all, Juneteenth idea and Cesar Chavez, phenomenal ideas. I really like those a lot. I do agree with you. I think proclamation is a great starting point. But I know that we live in a day and age where there's a symbolism of proclamation, but also if we ask the city to do marketing resources around and educational resources, even if it's just to do $100 of Facebook advertising with the city's logo and highlighting a holiday, I'd love to see that at that minimum level, because it would start educating the community about why these holidays happen and why we celebrate them in our city. So I think you really hit some good stuff. Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Krause.
I concur. That was good thinking, all of us together. I think in terms of categories, I think we should look at areas of service, areas of celebration. Do my homework about what other cities do around this region, but I heartily endorse our collaboration with our sister cities, like working with East Palo Alto and perhaps Mountain View or Redwood City on other areas of concern. So I'm beginning to think of it in terms of service, celebration, and remembrance. And maybe we could develop some further materials and think about things in each of these categories to go forward.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. I like your category, your initial category presentation. I think it's a great framework to start with. Service, celebration, and commemoration. Is that correct?
Yes.
Oh.
Service, we do good works and we do it together.
Mhm.
So it becomes a community.
Mhm.
We
That,
celebrate certain people like Lisa Chavez and Dolores Huerta. We unfortunately have memorials for things in the past that we can't undo, but we remember.
I think that's a great framework to start with. So this is what I'd like to do. I know we have 60 minutes of discussion here, but I think if we could start going around the drain right now, if we had another round of talking, I think what we should commit to do is spend the time before August and come back with some robust points and some robust framework. I would love to, since we've settled since I feel very settled on the council recommendation piece, I think having suggestions on holidays, best practices, and categories would be a good starting point. And we can hammer it out from there. Because I would love to come back to council with a framework. It's easy to shoot down one suggestion or two suggestions, but it's harder to pick apart a framework that's based in with some meat around it. And I think staff has given us more than enough information or more than enough foundation to work on this. So I will close the item if there's no other comments. Okay, we'll move to our next item. Okay, discussion on the start of the future of the HRC meetings. Historically, before COVID, we would start at 7. The idea of starting at 7 would allow people that were on the board at the time to get in from work and go get over here. COVID forced us to innovate and try something new, which was to start at 6, which a lot of commissioners seem to prefer at this point. So I would like to put a motion out there to make a permanent start time, or instead of it being a temporary COVID thing where we start at 6, I would like to make it our official start time. The next chair or the chair after me can change the start time. But right now, I'd like to put that motion out there. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Hold on, let me get the motions page back up. Okay, I am listening.
I make a motion that the start time for the Human Relations Commission meeting of the City of Palo Alto will be 6 p.m. on the second Thursday of the month.
You might want to not put the second Thursday of
6
the
p.m.
month
6 p.m. I got
because
you.
of
Yes,
changes.
yes. Should be 6 p.m. for the start of our meetings. Monthly meetings, just say monthly meetings because we have a special meeting. It'll be a different thing. All right. Did you get that? I know I butchered that at the end.
Would you like to see that on the screen?
As long as it says monthly meetings, I'm good.
I said, Chair Smith made a motion that the start time for the HRC should be 6 p.m. on an ongoing basis for the monthly meeting.
That works. Do we have a second on the motion as read off by staff?
Yes, and Vice Chair has also seconded prior.
Yes. So whichever one you want to pick, Minka, just
Whatever you
could,
want.
you could pick anybody's name and pick it out the hat. All right, let's do a vote. Vice Chair Eberly,
Aye.
Commissioner Krause,
Aye.
Chair Smith, aye. We have a unanimous 6 p.m. start time. Thank you. All right, let us move to commissioner reports. I would like to report that myself and Commissioner Krause have been doing a lot of detailed work with his rep. We met with Minka and we started going through the process, discussing what it looked like, how it is. And then we had a very informative and in-depth discussion with 2 previous commissioners and one city member or one city citizen or one citizen, I said it all wrong, one citizen of the city that has reviewed his RAP grants, and we talked about the pitfalls that we're doing there. We are going to meet with the recipients of the grant back on the process. The goal here is to figure out how to streamline and allow people and improve the HISRAP process as best as possible. Do we have any other commissioner reports?
I can go.
Yes.
I forgot to mention one thing that came out of the city council meeting last week, and that is that they will be in the process of starting the recruitment for our next commissioner to replace Commissioner Regier, and that I believe it's going to be in August. Do you have an update?
Yes. So what the hope is, so I have a flyer that I can give to you. The clerk's office just provided me with that today. So is it already posted? It's starting tomorrow. So that will be posted. I will give that on to you to help recruit folks. It is the unexpired term of Commissioner Regier. And in a perfect world, we would have someone by September-ish. Okay, so the deadline for those who didn't hear is July 27th, and they should have it on the council agenda they first have to say, these are the candidates. So that'll be the first or second meeting in August. Thank you, Mia.
Thank you.
And I already suggested to Chair Smith a potential candidate who I will talk to and see if they'd like to engage.
Yes, just so that we are absolutely clear, the person that would be selected is serving an 8-month term.
Thank you. We did talk about the possibility of having more commissioners in the commission. And I believe that the city council is receptive to that idea, and they're going to discuss it in the future.
They've been receptive for 6 months. I just wish they would discuss it now.
But they did mention that one of the reasons that it was cut back was that they didn't have enough people applying. So hopefully we can run more ads and get more people interested.
I think with a lot of these things, it's really word of mouth. So like what Commissioner Krause is doing is by speaking to others in your network to let them know of the possibility.
That's right.
Of service.
All right.
I'm sorry, I have one more update, is that Commissioner Savage and I met with the Emerging Needs Fund Grant and Fund Subcommittee, and we recommended that we would approve grants to 2 not-for-profits. I don't know if I can mention.
You cannot till we
Okay.
get the money transferred into our account, but
Okay.
did approve 2 grants.
Yes.
Thank you. Somebody's getting helped out there. I'd like to hear that.
Yeah.
That's it. Now I'm done.
Rental protection. Do we do anything on that this month?
Oh, yes. Well, we met last month. And no, we actually did. So Commissioner Krause or Commissioner Everly can discuss the second rental protections meeting that you had. Who would like to do so?
We had a larger meeting in which we discussed the ongoing survey that is to come on rental-related properties. And Commissioner Everly, do you have things to add to that?
Well, we also heard from the Palo Alto Renters Association. That was the last meeting. I'm sorry. I thought we had the meeting before our last HRC meeting.
We had the
I need to-
meeting with Project Sentinel and Palo Alto Mediation
Right.
Program.
I need to
Right.
keep better track. So we did hear a lot of feedback from the Palo Alto Renters Association on how they think that the rental protections are working right now. And they also had a lot of suggestions. And that's why I mentioned it to City Council last week, that we will have a section in our report that mentions possible renter protections that we believe that the city might want to consider adopting.
A point of information is when we had the last consideration by council
Oops.
I think we
of the
froze.
presidential hotel. What?
You
Oh,
froze
I'm
for a
sorry.
second.
Oh, okay. I'm not touching the computer. May it stay up. That we did a great deal of research with the council of what was going on in neighboring cities. And perhaps we can tap back into that and not reinvent it. So we have frames of reference to go forward with.
I think that's a great suggestion. When will we have an item to discuss with the commission?
Minka, I'm unclear as to when we will.
You know, I was just actually, I got out my to-do list
Yeah.
because we had talked about having it come back in August, but in all honesty, we're meeting we're meeting early June with a third leg of who we're reaching out to, and that is local landlords to get their feedback. And then we have to circle back with the subcommittee to see if there's more research and report. So in a perfect world, I'd say August, but I'm starting to think that that may not. So it really, I think, would work if there's a member of the subcommittee that could really, look at working on the report, or if I can get a certain segment of it done as well. So that's something we can talk offline, but in a perfect world, we were shooting for the August meeting.
Okay. It sounds like September is more realistic though.
It could be, but I'm going to look at my ability to work on it because
Because we have his wrap,
pardon?
we have his wrap holidays.
Yeah,
and-
I think it's too much.
I don't, yeah.
Yeah.
I think September's probably a better shot because, we're a commission of 4 and they need to discuss the other 2. So we can do more. All right. Staff, do you have anything?
I do.
Okay.
I do. So the first thing is I had sent out the list of HISREP agencies, and thank you Commissioners Kraus and Savage for signing up. I asked each commissioner to sign up for 4. The concern now is you're down to 4 commissioners, and there are 16 agencies. So that would mean that each of you would have to visit 5. Now,
Okay.
theoretically, that doesn't need to happen till you have really until October. What I'd like this to be all done by the time the HISREP application goes out. So there's no feeling of, connection to the site visits, which are just, social, and the selection and review of HISREP applications. So I encourage Commissioners Kraus and Savage possibly to go back in and pick one more, and the chair and the vice chair to look at the list, and then we'll go from there. But I'm acknowledging that it's pretty significant. I think if these could be set up realistically, if you do 5 and you do them, via a Zoom visit, it's really like you could do once a month and still keep up with the timeline that we need this done in. But, I acknowledge signing up for 5 is significant. And then the second thing I had was, hold on. We just went over it. The second one was the HRC recruitment. So I have no other items to report. I will say, I know that the HRC usually does not have a meeting in July, and I will be out of the office the last 2 weeks of July, but I will remind the chair and the vice chair of that before that happens, but I'm still here for over a month.
with a well-deserved vacation
Thank
at the
you.
end. Well, hard-earned vacation, I would
Thank you.
say. All right. Commissioners, that's the end of our meeting because we actually did an agenda conversation 3 minutes ago. We did, didn't we? All right. I pray that I can't say that. I hope that each of you will have my job
Yes,
messed
you
me up. I hope that each of you will have a great summer break. You have worked hard and above and beyond. I know that we all have projects that we still have to work on, but please take some time with friends and families and enjoy the 90-degree to 110-degree heat we will get this summer.
I actually have one more update, if you don't mind,
I
5
was
seconds.
on vacation.
So we are in the process, we are currently interviewing replacements for
Mary?
Mary. We're having a first discussion with the review committee next week. And so I'm hoping by sometime in mid-July, the person will be selected and possibly onboarded. And of course, maybe August, well, hopefully then August, they will be at this meeting and probably working just like Javad is tonight, working in collaboration with the clerk's office to learn the ropes.
And we'd like to, before we end, we'd like to thank the clerk's office and Javad for running a flawless meeting. No technical errors, no nothing. So I am grateful, everybody. Our meeting is adjourned. Let me use the hammer one time.